Hi folks, it's me Michaela and welcome back to my channel. I was scrolling on Goodreads the other day and came across the article titled From Number 1 to Number 60 Readers' Top Books Published in the Past 5 Years. And I thought, wow, I wonder how many books I've read, and maybe it would be fun to read some of them for a reading vlog. So here we are. I have my laptop here so we can look at the article together. I've already gone through this article so I could put some loans and holds on Libby, but we will go through the top books. We'll discuss them, and then some of the ones I haven't read, I'll read, and we'll talk about them. La-di-da-di-da, la-di-da-di-do. Fun! These are the most popular books, top 60 from the past 5 years, and I think it's based off of both like the number of times it's been shelved as well as the overall rating. We have The Silent Patient. I did have thoughts of reading that, but then I heard that the twist is like a mental health twist, and I'm not really like a fan of that, so I don't really think I'm going to read that. The Midnight Library, have been considering a want to read, and I do have this on Libby right now, so I could read that. Fourth Wing. I feel like I missed the bus on Fourth Wing. I know it was super popular, but I've heard that the second book wasn't as good as the first book, and so I'm not really sure if I want to dive into a new romantasy series. Daisy Jones and the Six I read and loved. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I had this marked as a want to read. I think I marked this like a few years ago though, so I'm not like super itching to read it. The Love Hypothesis. I'm not planning on reading. Same with Colleen Hoover. I just think both Ali Hazelwood and Colleen Hoover are not authors I'm expecting to enjoy their writing. So both Ali Hazelwood and Colleen Hoover are no-goes for me. I have read The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I liked it good enough, as well as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I really loved actually the first book of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. The other two books, not quite as good as the first. I feel like honestly it could have just been like a standalone instead of a series, but the series is good. People We Meet on Vacation I have marked as want to read because I've read Beach Read by Emily Henry, and I've also read Funny Story, which I did for a reading vlog if you want to check that out, and I just went through and marked other Emily Henry books as want to read. So I do want to read that. However, I'm kind of falling out of my romance era right now, so I'm not itching to read any romance. The Housemaid, Frida McFadden, have heard good things, but I think this is also a series. I'm not really sure if I'm interested in reading series for this. We'll see, but I mean, like, it's fall and thriller mystery vibes are always good for fall. Lessons in Chemistry. I do also want to read this. This is like a possibility. I think I do have this on my Libby shelf right now as well. Reminders of Him, again, Colleen Hoover, not interested in. Emily Henry, Book Lovers, also a want to read, but not really feeling romance. I have read A Court of Silver Flames. I gave this a pretty high rating because it like achieved what I wanted it to achieve. This is like my guilty pleasure beloved trash series. I don't think it's amazing literature, but oh my god, is it a fun time to read. Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, marked as want to read. I have read Daisy Jones and the Six. I've also read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Really loved both of them, so I want to read Malibu Rising, but I think I want to own the book because I'm expecting to really like it, and I'm not planning on buying any books this month, so I might hold off on reading it. Tomorrow. This was a hugely popular book. I'm kind of interested in reading it. I feel like I've heard people really love it, and then after it was super popular, I also heard some people like not love it. I don't think I've heard any like atrocious reviews of it. I think this is like a really high up on the list of what I might read, and I do have this on my Libby shelf. I did also put a poll up on my Instagram a couple days ago now with some of the books that I was able to get from Libby right away, and most people were voting for tomorrow. So I feel like I have to read this one, you know? Red, White, and Royal Blue. Again, I'm not super interested in romance. I haven't read it. I wouldn't be against reading it, but I'm not necessarily like, wow, I want to read that. The Last Thing He Told Me. I think this is a thriller. I have it marked as want to read. I must have saw it on a list somewhere and just marked it because I literally don't remember doing that. Happy Place by Emily Henry. Same boat as Book Lovers and People We Meet on Vacation. Like, it's a want to read, but probably not right now. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I have read a few memoirs now. I think I've read 3 memoirs this year, so I'm not against reading another memoir. I'm just like not sure if I'm ready to read this memoir because it's pretty heavy in topics. Iron Flame, obviously I haven't read Fourth Wing, so I'm not going to read Iron Flame. Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. Again, I'm not really feeling romance, and I know it's super popular, but I'm not sure if it's going to be for me. Crescent City. This is like the newest Sarah J. Maas series. I do want to read this. I can't undertake this at the moment, especially knowing how much people apparently disliked the second book. Was it the second book that everybody like really disliked? I think I'll get to it eventually. It's just like not very high up on the list. The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. I've like seen this book, but I literally don't know anything about it. Moving on. Twisted Love by Anna Huang. This is actually on my 24 books in 2024 list. Only problem is it's not at either of the libraries that I have library cards for on Libby. So like I don't know how I'm going to read it because I'm really unsure if I'm going to like this romance, and I don't want to buy Twisted Love and then hate it and then own the book. The Inheritance Games I have read. I love the first book. I actually just read the fourth book, The Brothers Hawthorne, in a reading vlog because it was also on my 24 books in 2024 list. If you're looking for like a super quick paced YA mystery, first book amazing, rest of the series fine. The Vanishing Half. I've had this on my want to read shelf on Goodreads, I think like for quite a few years. I think it was one of the first ones I put on my list when I started getting back into reading. I only like vaguely know about it. I have it on my Libby shelf so I can read it. So it's definitely like a possibility. It might be good to like branch out from my usual reading. One of my reading goals for the year is to branch out my reading, and this is definitely not like my usual go-to reads. From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I know this is like from one of her series. I don't even know which one. It is the first book, okay, in a series. Cool. This is like one, I think, is this like vampires? Is this like the vampire fantasy? Romantasy. I don't really know if I'm into vampire romantasy. I've never read any. Like, I haven't even read Twilight, so I don't know. But, like, it's not making me feel interested, so I'm probably not going to read that. I have read Icebreaker. Did enjoy it. I thought it was, like, really great. Not, like, a 5-star. I loved Wildfire. Daydream, the third book, came out this year, and that one was just, like, fine for me. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I have read all of the Hunger Games books, but, like, when I was in high school, so that's, like, almost 10 years ago now. So I would love actually to reread The Hunger Games. I just don't know when that's going to happen, and I think like this is a book to read after I do a reread of the series. The House in the Cerulean Sea. I loved this book. This is one where like I want to own it. I want to own a copy of this. I don't. I read it on Libby, and then I listened to the audiobook when I was like trying to test out if I was an audiobook person. I'm not. The Maid by Nina Prose. See, now, here's the thing. The Maid and the... What is the other one? The Housemaid? I feel like those were the same year. I get them both confused in my head. They're like the same book, but different in my mind because I don't know much about either of them, and they both have Maid in the title. But I have it marked as want to read because I do like mysteries, and I don't read enough mysteries, honestly. The Spanish Love Deception. This is another one where it's like I heard lots about it and decided that I didn't think it was for me. I've never heard of The Perfect Marriage. Is this a thriller? Is this a romance? I mean, there's blood, so there must be death or something. No idea what that's about. Remarkably Bright Creatures. I do recognize this book, but again, don't really know anything about it. Doesn't mean I wouldn't be interested in reading it, but clearly I haven't marked it as a want to read yet. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. Definitely a want to read. I did put this in my 24 books in 2024, but I want to read Babel before I read Yellowface just because I have been reading R.F. Kuang's books in publishing order for whatever reason. Have that stuck in my brain that that's what I'm going to do. So I have no idea when I'm going to get to Yellowface. It's not going to be in this video. I would love to read Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, but I do not think that Libby loan is coming in anytime soon because this book is so popular. The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. Never heard of this in my life, honey. Another Colleen Hoover. We already know I'm not interested. The Wicked King. I do have this marked as want to read because I've read The Cruel Prince and I did like it enough that I want to continue reading the full series, so I've marked it as a want to read. But I own The Cruel Prince, so I want to own the rest of the series because I'm a completionist. We'll see when that happens, when I finally get around to that. Haunting Adeline. I know this book is so utterly popular in its dark romance category, but it's really not. something I'm interested in reading, so I will not be reading it. Thank you. The Housemaid. See, this is another one. Like, this is the second book in a series, The Housemaid's Secret. Okay, so I'm not going to be reading that because I haven't even read The Housemaid. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is actually like a sci-fi that I was like, if I was a sci-fi person or I wanted to try out sci-fi. I mean, I have read Dune, so it's like I've read sci-fi, but I feel like I haven't tried any like contemporary sci-fi because I feel like Dune is almost like a classic at this point. So I feel like I would try out an Andy Weir sci-fi if I was to read one. So I might just mark this as want to read because like, why not? Right? None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This is from last year, right? Yeah. This was like super popular, so I marked it as a want to read. Haven't actually read any Lisa Jewell. Also cannot tell you any of the titles of Lisa Jewell, but I feel like I could recognize a lot of the covers of Lisa Jewell books. Like if they came to me, I'd say, I feel like I've seen this before. Never Lie by Frida McFadden. Wait, Frida McFadden, that's also the... How hard is Frida McFadden working? I've never heard of this book. Anyway, it happened one summer. Okay, is this the one where I thought I was interested in reading it, but then the main male character's name is Fox, and then I wasn't sure if I could take that seriously? Potentially. That might be the reason why I haven't read that yet. Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I'm pretty sure I was like, oh, I'll read a Tessa Bailey. Let me see that one. And then I like looked at the synopsis and saw the male character's name was Fox. And I was like, I can't do it. Divine Rivals. Also like know this to be super popular. I think this is YA though, right? And I'm not really sure if I'm interested in YA at the moment. I've kind of been leaning away from YA the like more I have been reading, which does make sense because I am almost 28. The Paris Apartment. This one I'm actually kind of really interested in reading. I've read The Guest List and I've also read The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. I would be interested in reading one of her other books, and also like it's October, it feels like the time to reading mystery thrillers. So this really could be an option. It is on my Libby shelf right now. I could do it. Okay. Kristen Hanna has 2 books on this list and I don't even know who she is. I'm sorry. Okay, Queen of Nothing is another Folk of the Air. Same series. It's a Cruel Prince, so like can't be reading that. I have read Every Summer After. Loved it. Didn't super love the ending, but overall loved it. Again, Taylor Jenkins Reid, you know I haven't marked as a want to read. You know I also haven't gotten to it yet. Twisted Games, it's a sequel. We're not doing it. In 5 years, no idea what this is. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? This feels like it'd be a romance, so I don't think I'm interested in it. American Dirt really vaguely sounds familiar to me, but I don't think I really know what it's about, so I'm not going to be interested in reading it. Such a Fun Age. This is in the same category as The Vanishing Half, where I feel like I put this on my want to read shelf like years ago when I was first getting back into reading, and I've just like never gotten to it. Like forgot I put it there on that want to read list. Maybe this is the time I finally read it. Pride and H Mart I have read and I loved. Everybody should read this. Did read this for a reading vlog as well if you want to check it out. And then finally we have Demon Copperhead. I'm pretty sure I marked this as want to read purely because I recognized the cover from other people reading in reading vlogs and just was like, yeah, let me put that as a want to read because it looks familiar. I don't even know if I'm interested in it. So that's interesting. But those are the 60 books. I think I'm going to start with Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This is like a 22 release, super popular the year it released. I have it on my Libby shelf right now. Let me get started on reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and I'll get back to you with my initial thoughts. And then once we finish, we're collectively doing it together. Once I finish reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, then we can like come back and look at what a next read might be. But there we go. Let's start the reading portion of this reading vlog. Would this even be a Michaela Christine Reed's reading vlog if I didn't do at least one update when I'm in a rush before I go to work? Absolutely not. So here we are. So I'm now a third of the way through Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and I am liking it so far. The story is mainly following Sam and Sadie through their relationship. They met as children and their friendship kind of has like ups and downs, drift apart and then come together again. And when they're in university, they end up making a video game together. That's kind of like the part I'm at now, so I don't know where this goes from here, but I'm assuming it continues to follow Sam and Sadie and their relationship and making video games. Like I said, I'm liking it. I think the characters are really interesting and well developed, and their interactions and relationships with each other and like other characters are quite interesting. I think even some of the not main characters, still pretty strong character, like Mark's is really interesting, and Dove, even though I kind of hate him, is still like an interesting character to read. But there's just like something that's just not quite clicking with me. I think that if you are somebody who does really enjoy video games and you're really interested in that, as well as like the designing and programming and creation of them, you'd probably enjoy this book more than I am, just because I am not into video games at all. So a lot of these like references and when they're talking more detail about it, even though I understand all the general concepts, I think Gabrielle Zevin does a really good job of writing in a general populace explanation of what she's talking about without being like, this is what I'm talking about in the book. So you have like a general idea of like what things mean and what they're doing, but it's just like not an interest to me. So like reading more about that instead of like the characters sometimes doesn't feel as exciting to me personally, just because I'm not a video game person. That's been something I've been like dealing with. I also am kind of like going back and forth on how I feel about the prose, just because it can be quite flowery and the vocabulary that it uses oftentimes is quite high. It's quite literary. You know, we're like using big words that not everybody's gonna know. And I don't necessarily have anything against that. I am reading it and every now and then have to actually look up a word because I'm like, I understand the context around it, but I really want to know exactly what that means. You know, I've learned a couple new words through the process, but it is kind of like halting my reading a bit, like kind of taking away from the momentum of the story, as well as sometimes feeling like, are you using this big word just to use a big word? Every now and then it does kind of feel like that, like, oh, are you just using big vocabulary, smart people words just so that you sound smart while using big people vocabulary words? I don't know if that makes sense, but like sometimes it feels like that. Sometimes it does feel very naturally part of the prose. Like, yes, that is the correct word to use and this makes sense. And then, like I said, other times it's like, I feel like we could have just used a simpler word here instead of this one. I would say like at the 1/3 of the way into the book mark, I'm kind of say I would give this a 3 right now, though obviously there's still so much book to read, but I would say like the beginning has grabbed my attention enough and I'm liking it enough to continue, but I'm not loving it. But I can see why a lot of people would love this, because like as far as I know, there's not a huge amount of general fiction that the story is based around video games and video game creation. I'm hoping that like the rest of the book will kind of like hook me a bit more now that like I've read the beginning and I kind of have learned the terminology that's being used when speaking about video games. Hopefully going forward I'll understand more. But yeah, that's the update. I'm sorry my voice is like so it's so messed. I've been sick all weekend and I just woke up, so my voice hates me right now. I apologize, but I'll see you in the next update when I'm somewhere between like halfway and 2/3 of the way through this book. Okay, I'm now about 3/4 of the way through Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I am liking it. It's definitely a good book, but I'm not really loving it, and I feel like it's mostly because of the subject matter of the book. Even though this book is like very clearly more about the characters and their relationships, it is like being brought to you through the vessel of video games and game creation. And I feel like a lot of people have a connection and a love to video games, and that reading this has some kind of like nostalgic connection for them, especially since the book is set starting in like the 80s and goes through kind of like the huge tech boom, I guess for lack of a better word, that you know, the 90s and the early 2000s was, you know, where like technology and as a result video games were being increased and developed at such a fast pace. I think there's a level of nostalgia that is linked to that a lot of people can get benefit from through this book. However, like me personally, I don't have that connection. I mean, like I played like Animal Crossing on a GameCube when I was growing up. Like I had a Wii. I did little Wii Sports, you know, but I've never been somebody who has played video games, who has loved video games, who continues to do so. It's just not an interest of mine. I have too many hobbies as it is. But I do know that there's like a very strong crossover of interest between people who read and people who play video games. I feel like there's a lot of people who do both. And so reading this book probably has a huge connection for them that way because they're reading a book that is on a topic they really enjoy and the book is very knowledgeable on it. I'm not knowledgeable on this, so I can't actually like confirm that the book is knowledgeable on video games and programming and the like, but it sounds like it is knowledgeable on that to me, and that Gabrielle Zevin is writing on a topic that she knows. I think like for me, like if it was a topic that I loved that was being the vessel for the story of the characters, I would probably absolutely love it. But because it's not, I'm kind of only liking the book and I'm not finding myself being drawn to pick it up after I put it down. And I think the general topic of it is what's keeping me away because I'm not drawn in. And that's not the author's fault. That's not the book's fault. It's just like, it's not for me. I will say I'm loving the way that small bits of, I don't know how to explain it. Like they'll mention something in passing and then in a later part you kind of get the context of what that was, or something they mention here kind of comes back around, you get the full story. And I really like that interconnectedness, especially because the book is written in parts. There's 10 parts to the book, and in each part there are chapters. So I feel like having these kind of points weaved through and expanded later on in the book connects you back to like the parts you were reading earlier, and I really like that. I think the writing is very good, very beautiful. There's like a lot of strong character development and relationship development. You can really see that these really feel like real people and not fiction. So like that's really wonderful. However, it's just not something that I'm loving, and that's it. I can 100% see why other people absolutely adore this book. However, it's just like not really for me. So I'm hoping I'm going to finish it today, and then we can pick the next book that I'll read for this vlog. And yeah, I'll give you my final thoughts when I'm done. So there we go. I really have to go to work now. I was this close to just going full weekend mode because it's Friday. And I was like, hold on, I look cute, let me take advantage. So here we are. I have finished reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I think it's a very good book, and I really loved how character driven it was, and I think all of the like storytelling aspects and the writing aspects of the book I really enjoyed, but like I said before, I just didn't super connect to the plot that was carrying these characters, and because of that I just like couldn't really fall in love with it. I definitely understand why other people would absolutely fall in love with it. I think if you're someone who loves video games, have played video games, grew up especially playing video games in the 90s and early 2000s, I think you would probably love this book and everything it has to say, because like I don't like those things and I still really enjoyed the book. So I ended up like kind of settling on that 3.5 star range because I did feel like it was much above average for me. It just like wasn't a wow out of the park. And I also found myself not really wanting to pick it up after I put it down because the plot wasn't intriguing to me. I think all of the things I said in my previous updates kind of continue to the end of the book. I don't really think I have any brand new thoughts for the last third, or not even the last third. I think it was like the last quarter of the book since I last updated the vlog. So I don't have like too many new things to say. I will say like the ending didn't feel super satisfying to me, but I think that kind of was the point, so I'm okay with it. The whole concept of like the tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow is coming from the idea of like in video games how you can always start over. You never actually die. And so I think that was like an overarching theme in the book in a way. And like I liked it. Again, it just like probably wasn't for me, and that's fine. So starting a new book today from the list. I'm kind of in the mood for a thriller or a mystery. So I was debating between The Paris Apartment, None of This Is True, The Last Thing He Told Me, and The Maid. I kind of like wiped The Maid out of the running kind of immediately because I don't want to start another series right now, and The Maid is the first book in a series, so I don't really want to read that. And I thought, as much as I would like to read The Paris Apartment, I have read Lucy Foley before, and this is like a good opportunity to read a new author. I also kind of cut that one from the list, and I ended up deciding to go with The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. I haven't read anything by Laura Dave. I also hadn't really heard of this book before. I feel like I saw the cover somewhere, and I looked, and it seems to be like it won a Goodreads Choice Award like in 2022. I didn't know that. 2022 was kind of like just when I was really getting into reading, so I don't think I was paying attention to the Goodreads Choice Awards that much that year. But I like looked briefly at this book, and it seems to be this woman's husband goes missing, and now she's stuck trying to figure out like where he's gone and what happened to him, what he's doing. Anyway, it seemed fun, and it seemed like a quick read, and I'm really in the need for a quick mystery thriller. So I'm starting The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave, and I will let you know my thoughts after I have read a bit of the book. I do have pants on, you just probably can't see them. I finished part 1 of The Last Thing He Told Me, and this book has 3 parts, which I personally love because it gives me like very exact points for me to do my check-ins. Like I love when a book has 3 relatively equal parts for me. It makes my life easier for the vlogging purposes. But I finished reading part 1, and I'm liking it so far. I'm finding it intriguing. We are following Hannah, and she is the wife of Owen, and it starts when a 12-year-old girl shows up at her door with this note for her from her husband that just says protect her. And what this note is referring to is her stepdaughter Bailey, and Bailey doesn't like her because her and Owen have only been married like a little bit of a time, and the 16-year-old is not like a super huge fan of Hannah. And so Owen is now missing, and now Hannah is trying to figure out what happened to her husband, you know? And I am liking it. I like the mystery so far. I have some thoughts, like, you know, what I think might be going on. I won't tell you what my thoughts are because I want this to be spoiler free. It also, like, at the same time as being like a serious mystery, there is also some like funny lines and like lightheartedness that I'm really enjoying in it. It doesn't feel like so like super serious, high stakes, everything is life and death kind of business mystery, which I think I was like just in the mood for. So I'm really happy I decided to go with this one. So I'm liking the writing so far, and I feel like if I end up liking this book fully, I definitely would keep Laura Dave as an author to like consider reading in the future. I don't know what other books she's written, but I would look into it if I end up liking this one, you know, might as well. So I think that's kind of like my initial thoughts so far. I'm like just under a third of the way through by being done part 1, so there's still kind of like a lot of book to read to establish like my true thoughts on the plot, because I feel like part 1 really was just establishing the plot and the mystery, and I got like an idea of the writing style and I'm liking it so far, but I don't have a whole lot of like constructive criticism to provide at the moment because I don't really feel like I've had enough to really like solidify ideas in that way. So I'll read part 2 and then I'll let you know my thoughts. But so far, it's a fun time. I really like it. It's like it's reading quickly, short chapters, which we know I love. I love a short chapter because I read them like this. I will read short chapter books way faster than long chapter books. It's just a thing with the brain. It's how it works. Yes, I'm going to read more of the book. I'll let you know when I'm done part 2. See you there. I made it to the end of part 2 of The Last Thing He Told Me, and things have developed so quickly, and I'm like kind of loving it. Honestly, I finished part 2 last night, and I almost started part 3 without telling you my update because I really wanted to keep reading, but I like held myself in and was like, no, Michaela, follow the schedule you made for yourself, make your little check-in, and then read part 3. But I'm so excited for part 3. Oh my God. Although this story is like not similar at all to Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister, which I absolutely loved. but it has like the same vibes to me as Wrong Place, Wrong Time, in the sense that you're kind of like uncovering the mystery of a person versus the mystery of trying to solve a murder or a crime or something. Like instead you're trying to figure out like who really was this person, what's this person's story, what was their history, and that's going to get you to the answer. And I really like that kind of story base, I think. So if you know any other like mystery thrillers that kind of are like discovering the truth of a person kind of stories, let me know, because I think I would probably like them, because I'm really liking this one, and I think that's the part of it that I'm really liking. But things have escalated, things have been discovered, and I'm loving it. Like there was just like a big, like I left part 2 off and it's like cliffhanger moment, and so I really wanted to keep reading, but I held myself back. But I'm super excited to get to that now, and then I'll let you know my thoughts obviously when I finish the book. But right now I'm really feeling like 4 stars, and depending how this ends, like this could be a 4.5 star read. I'm not really quite feeling like the 5-star feeling, like yay, it's like an all-time favorite kind of book about it, at least not right now, but it's really good, like super captivating, super page turning. I was like trying to make dinner last night while I was reading this book, had it on the counter and was like doing this while like stirring my dinner over on the side, because I was like, I need to read this book though, like I cannot stop for a second because I need to know, kind of can't put it down, which is fantastic, great, amazing, love it. So I'm really excited I picked up this book. I also have to say I really like stories where people whose jobs are like investigating things, but this one is kind of like everyday person, but they're not necessarily like they're not investigating a crime in a way that they're trying to become like an investigator. They're just trying to uncover a mystery, and they're just like looking into things as they can. This is like the only thing I can think of, and this is probably not the best parallel, but like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, where you have Pip who's trying to solve a murder. She's not an actual investigator, but she does like interviews, and she has this board to keep track of all her clues and all of this kind of stuff. She's just like a regular person who's trying to solve a mystery in the way an investigator would, versus this is a regular person who's just trying to uncover facts. And it doesn't feel like there's this huge plan that she's like, I'm investigating this. She's just like finding out small bits of information and then thinking, where can I go where I can get more information, and talking to people there and being like, please help me, do you know anything about this kind of thing. And I really like that aspect of it, because it doesn't feel like our main character is somehow able to do things that they should not be skilled or able to do, you know? Really liking it. Great book so far. Can't wait to get the part 3, and we'll get back to you when I am done the book. I have finished reading the book, and I have to say part 3 of The Last Thing He Told Me was actually a little disappointing for me. So I ended up giving it a 3.5 and not a 4, just because I felt like we left the end of part 2 here, and then like it really felt like right from the beginning of part 3, we were in conclusion, and like the whole part of part 3 felt like the conclusion, and it didn't feel like, ooh, maybe this isn't going to go right. Maybe this isn't going to go the way that I think is going to go, because there wasn't enough book left to make you think otherwise, and it kind of all just happened. And I was like a little sad about that, because I really felt that we were getting to like here, and then it's almost like it was like a little bit of an Icarus moment. Like we were taking these normal people and we were flying them too close to the sun of absurdity, that by the time we got to part 3, it had to just come down, because we couldn't just keep going up into that realm, because we would lose the sense of reality we were in. So then instead, you kind of just ended up with it not feeling like reality, because it all just kind of like came crashing down to like just being fine. Not that it was like everything was fine, but I don't know, it's just like we were like going, and then we're like, and we're done, we're over, we made it, woo, we passed the finish line. And that was just kind of disappointing to me, so I gave it a 3.5. I really thought I was going to be giving this a 4-star, so that's like a little tad disappointing. It means that like both of the books I read for this vlog were just fine. Actually, they were both like above fine, both above average books, but I didn't end up like loving either of these books. And this book, especially The Last Thing He Told Me, based off how I felt about the first half, and especially like the second third of the book, I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. This is great. I'm loving the dynamic. I'm loving the relationship. I'm loving how this like unstable relationship of Hannah and her stepdaughter is like greatly playing into the plot. I was really liking that. And then also the way that that relationship then added some levity to the kind of like very serious plot that was happening. I thought it was like such a good balance, and I was like really excited to see where it was going to go. And then it kind of just like didn't bring me where I wanted it to. So I was a little sad, a little disappointed, a little boo-hoo, but still overall a good book. And I think I would consider reading another Laura Dave novel in the future. I'm not against it. So it could happen. It's not like after I finished reading Wrong Place, Wrong Time and I was like, okay, I am going to make it a mission to read all of the Gillian McAllister that comes out. Not that I've done that yet, but it's like, it's a plan I have. Or like Frederick Bachman. I read a singular Frederick Bachman book and now I'm like, okay, I know I will at some point have managed to read all the Frederick Bachman books because I want to. I don't feel that way about either of these authors. So I didn't find any like new favorite books. I didn't find any new favorite authors, but I did read some good books and I did read some good authors where I think if I come across one of their books in the future that seems interesting to me, I would probably pick it up because I know I've read from them before and I've enjoyed what they've written. I will be ending this video here. I kind of thought I would get to a third book for this vlog, but look, I got sick with a cold partway through this and that really did me dirty with my schedule for what I thought I would be able to accomplish, but it is what it is. I did read 2 books. Goodreads said they were 2 of the most popular best books of the past 5 years. I don't necessarily agree personally. Let me know your own thoughts on these books. Also, let me know of the list. Did you see the Goodreads 60 best books of the last 5 years article? How many books have you read? Do you agree? Are there any on there that you think definitely are the best books and I should read them? Do let me know. If you happen to like this video, make sure to give it a like, give it a little thumbs up. And if you happen to like me, consider subscribing. I'd be happy to have you. And with that, I hope you're having a wonderful day today and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.